And good morning and welcome to this last day of the conference. Today we will start with this mysterious thing, cryptocurrency. And I will leave the floor to the co-founder and co-director and head of OCCRP, Paul Rado.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming at such an early hour after heavy partying last night. I know it's painful, so we really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. It's really my honor to introduce my friend, Federico Paesano. We know each other for how many years now?
I think it was 7, 8.
About 7, 8 years, yeah. We started working together on following the money strategies and techniques. Federico works with the Basel Institute on Governance in Basel, Switzerland. And in a previous life, he was law enforcement. But even now, you work quite a bit with law enforcement, with Europol, with various other bodies, because Federico is an expert in AML, money laundering, cryptocurrencies, and with the Basel Institute on Governance on asset recovery. So Federico knows how to follow the money, and Federico knows how to follow the money across blockchains, which is what he will speak about today. He's also, as you see there, a crypto enthusiast. I remember him giving a training in my own country, in Romania, years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when he was trying to convince everybody to open up a wallet. And was actually interesting. And it was a very good idea at the time, but many people didn't really believe in that. And of course, the crypto goes up and down and all that, so there are many ins and outs with that. So with this, Federico, please run us through crypto investigation. So we'll get some, a little bit of an overview about what cryptocurrencies are, and then clear tools that you can use to do your own crypto investigations. Federico, please.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, everybody. Good morning. As Paul was saying, I'm a former financial investigator. I worked with the Italian financial police for 14 years. Spent 1 year within this thing in Afghanistan, where I was working in Kabul with the Minister of Interior on anti-corruption issues. And then I joined the Basel Institute on Governance, where I've been working since in 2010. Just a few words about how I got involved in crypto. I was really lucky, almost at the beginning of crypto. Starting in 2009, 2010, I heard about it at the conference. I got involved, I got interested. I spent months in the rabbit hole trying to understand everything I could. And then I started incorporating this in the training programs we have with the Basel Institute on Governance, on financial investigations and asset recovery, because it really shocked me at the time for the beauty of it. So I will always talk from 2 points of view here. I'm a crypto enthusiast, so I really believe in how crypto can change the world and can revolutionize a lot of things. Unfortunately, to have it as a safe, let's say, environment, I also teach how to then investigate it and how it can be misused by criminals. So I will constantly probably switch between these two different sides. What I have to do now, it's to summarize what I usually do in 4 days in 1 hour. So it will be impossible to give you everything I would like to give you and explain all the tricks and tools. I also don't know the average level of understanding of crypto. Probably many of you don't know anything. So I have to try and start from the really basics to let you understand a few things, because then I want to enable you, if you encounter cryptocurrency in investigation and you look at something like, sorry, I will switch to that in a second. If you find something like this, those are hardware wallets. There are small machines that basically contains the password to unlock cryptocurrency transactions. So it's usually people say they contain cryptocurrency or they contain Bitcoin. In reality, as I will try to explain, they don't contain anything, just the password to spend them. Because when you make a transaction in cryptocurrencies, nothing moves. From my wallet, from my phone, nothing leaves and nothing arrives to your wallet if I'm sending you some Bitcoin, just transferring ownership, okay, which is a strange concept to understand sometimes when we talk about cryptocurrencies. Also, I don't know, if you have a person of interest and you find this phone or computer, you know what to look at, and you know maybe that some applications can give you already a clue that this person is using cryptocurrencies. Or, no, you find a note like this, a piece of paper with some random letters, and you know that you can already take some actions. There is a lot that you can do here. You can go on the blockchain, you can explore for yourself what's behind this string of numbers. This slide was just to tell you that as part of my role in the Basel Institute on Governance, we created a working group together with Europol and Interpol, where we meet every year. It's a global conference, free for everybody, where we discuss everything related to crypto investigations. It's a 2-day conference. Second day, unfortunately, is restricted to law enforcement only because they discuss live cases. I know it would be really interesting to be there, but unfortunately, you have to be law enforcement. But the first day is open to everybody, and also we try to have a lot of content there. So if you want, feel free to join us 26th of October. Okay, enough for it. Let me go to the more juicy stuff. Okay, first of all, I really like this analogy to let you understand, for those of you who never interacted with cryptocurrency, you never used it, or maybe I can ask you, have you ever used cryptocurrency? So that I already know how many people. Okay, great, some of you, that's great. Oh, I really like this analogy. Maybe you have seen it already. It really lets you understand this concept that nothing moves. And I refer to so-called ray stones. I don't know if you've ever seen those, you know what they are. They've been stones, basically, actually. They've been used for hundreds of years as money on the island of Yap, which is more or less over there. Now, they were using this because it was absolutely scarce on the island, so it doesn't exist. That's limestone, doesn't exist on the island. So, you know, like gold and like precious metals, something sometimes become money because it's absolutely scarce in the place where it's used. And that was the case for ray stones. The beauty of it and why it's very similar, let you understand cryptocurrencies, is because, I mean, you see how big some of those stones are. So if I was making a transaction with any of you, I would not come to you with this big stone and, you know, bring it to your place. We just leave it where it is. In fact, no, actually those stones were never moving. What we were transferring was the ownership. Okay, so on the island of Yap, people had a sort of mental ledger of, you know, that nice stone is mine, then the other stone is yours, the other one is Paul. And if Paul wants to give me one of those stones, we don't move it. It doesn't come to my place with a stone. We simply announce to the rest of the people of the island, hey, that stone used to be Paul, now it's Federico's. Okay, so people have a mental ledger of who owns what. And cryptocurrencies work like this. Okay, if from my wallet, where I have, you know, 1 Bitcoin, I want to send 1 Bitcoin to Paul, nothing leaves my phone, nothing arrives to Paul's phone. There is simply a ledger, which in this case is not a mental ledger, it's a distributed electronic ledger with ownership. Okay, and this ledger will be updated with a new transaction that says, Federico sends this Bitcoin to Paul. Okay, and now he has on his wallet a special password to spend that Bitcoin that I sent him. But in reality, I haven't sent him anything. And simply announce to this ledger that there is a change of ownership. Okay, so you will never find cryptocurrency on a wallet, on a computer. You only find the password to spend them. Okay, which is a difficult concept. Also, now won't be the case, but when I talk about, you know, confiscation of assets, that changes things quite significantly. There are so many good reasons why cryptocurrencies was created in the first place. And also remember, through this presentation, unless I specified, I will talk probably about Bitcoin because I grew with that. It's probably still the most important one, the most used one. But usually I will talk in general about all cryptocurrencies, unless there is something specific which is different, then I will tell you. But Bitcoin was the first one that was created, so all the others came after. Some just copies, some probably 90% just scams. some with some interesting use cases, but for a few years, Bitcoin was the only one. So why it was created? A lot of good reasons, but some of them, it gives irreversible transactions. So as I told you, nothing moves when I send the cryptocurrency. There is just ownership change in this ledger. This ledger is distributed through tens of thousands of computers and is irreversible. So nobody, I will try to explain later, but this decentralized network has no one in power, no one in charge. That's true for Bitcoin, not for all cryptocurrencies, because some of them are not decentralized. But usually, the good ones, once a transaction goes into this ledger, is irreversible. So nobody can change it. No government, no person, no company, no CEO, there's nothing like that. So it's irreversible. It's secured by cryptography. Okay, so the fact that this ledger is immutable comes from cryptographic properties that we won't discuss today, but you can trust it, at least for Bitcoin and to a larger extent also Ethereum. They are irreversible and secured by cryptography. Permissionless, which is so important. No government can tell you if you can use Bitcoin or Ethereum or not. I mean, they can pass a law saying that you are not allowed to use it. You can use it anyway. That depends. It's on you. But nobody can prohibit you from using cryptocurrency. Okay? You just need an application, actually. I mean, unless they block your internet, but still there will be a way around it, but basically nobody can stop it. And depends on which cryptocurrency and the level of knowledge you have and the tools you use, you can have a lot of privacy with that. Okay, there is a nightmare now, these last couple of years, which are so-called CBDs, central bank digital currencies. Okay, that's not true for that. Okay, if you hear about that, first of all, they're not cryptocurrencies, they are not decentralized, they are issued by a government, and it's much, I mean, it's 1984, it's terrible. Your government can basically see every transaction you have. You don't have any more, not even cash, where you can have an anonymous transaction. I mean, not anonymous, but private, that you don't want to share with other people. Other reasons, I mean, if you live in Venezuela probably, or in countries where you have hyperinflation, you know why cryptocurrencies, even if they fluctuate in price crazily, but I mean, if you're there, everything is better than your own currency. I really love this picture taken at the time of the amount of cash you needed to buy that. Yeah, that actually you find money in the street there because it's so worthless. Okay, so this distinction I want to make, cryptocurrencies, most of them, so the truly decentralized one, are like this. Okay, it's a network which is completely decentralized. There's completely no hierarchy. There is no company, no CEO, no one in charge. That's why it's permissionless. That's why it's irreversible, because nobody's in charge. Okay, and that's the beauty of it. How can decentralized money work? Now we are going again to the example of the island of Yap. Okay, so let's imagine they want to even get rid of the stones. Okay, what they can do, and would actually really work, is you put a ledger. You write down that I have 3 stones, Paul has 4 stones, you have 1 stone. Then we get rid of the stones, and now we can transact like that. Every time we make a transaction, we simply write down, okay, Federico sends 1 stone to Paul, etc., right? The problem here is centralization. We have one big ledger and somebody in control of it. So the revolution of Bitcoin in the first place and then all the other cryptocurrencies is that instead of having one ledger and somebody in control, you duplicate this ledger throughout the network. So everybody using cryptocurrency can have a copy of that ledger, so that if you come to me and say, hey, I want to send you 1 Bitcoin, I have a copy of the ledger. I can first of all check if you have that Bitcoin. I don't have to ask a trust institution or somebody to prove that you have that money. I can prove it for myself. I can see that you have that money because I see a transaction sending that money to you in the past. I see you never spend it afterward. So now I can simply simply update this ledger, put in a new transaction, says, okay, this Bitcoin or this ETH or whatever is sent to another person. Okay? So everybody can have a copy of the ledger. Even now, I can download the Bitcoin software or the Ethereum software on my computer. I can download the entire history of transactions. It's called the blockchain. And transact for myself and verify transaction for myself. In fact, when you hear this word blockchain, first of all, something I really want to say is that you will probably read that is probably the solution to every problem in the world, which is not. It's a very costly and not really effective database or way to keep in track of transactions. It's really a duplication of data, tremendous duplication of data with the cost in terms of electricity. But that's the downside of having a completely decentralized, permissionless, a private network for transaction. Okay, so the blockchain, this word that you hear, is nothing but a list of transactions like this. Okay, very long. And nowadays it's almost 500 gigabytes, the entire Bitcoin blockchain. So you have to download it first if you want to be a node in the network. Not every user needs to do that, but that's really how it works. As I said, it's an append-only database. We won't go into why, but just trust me and the code that is an append-only database. Once a transaction goes into it, no way to delete it or to edit or to alter it, okay? And most importantly, you will hear that it's anonymous. In reality, it's pseudonymous. Okay, so you will never see Federico, Paul, or your name. You will see that an entity X sends money to an entity Y. Okay, and in reality, those X and Ys are string of numbers like this, the one that I showed to you in a slide before. Okay, just imagine it like bank account numbers. So if you want to send me a wire transfer, I will give you my bank account number so that you can send me money. If you want to send me Bitcoin, for example, I will give you my Bitcoin address. Okay, that's how it's called, Bitcoin address or crypto address, because every cryptocurrency has its own addresses. So if I want to send money to Paul, it will show me his QR code, because usually it's done through QR code. Of course, you don't want to exchange those string of numbers. I will scan it from my phone, from my wallet, and I will send money to him. So basically, when I make a transaction, it would work like this. This is me. I want to send from my address. So remember, this is called an address, to Paul's Bitcoin address. I want to send a transaction, so my wallet will connect with those computers around the world that are running the network, completely on a voluntary basis. You can be a node if you want, everybody can be. And they will update their copy of the ledger, of the blockchain. So everybody has a copy of the blockchain. They will receive information about my transaction I want to do. They will update the copy of the ledger, which is an approximation, but I don't have to go at the time to go through mining and blocks, etc. But more or less, that's the way it works. So this is a transaction how you would look at on the blockchain. So we will see some of them blockchain explorers, so websites where you can explore the entire blockchain. And transactions look like this. This is the sender, is always on the left-hand side. Okay, money is going from this address to this address. Those are the amounts. Usually have other information like the transaction ID, so the identifier of the transaction, you have the timestamp. But just to let you understand, left-hand side, origin of the money, right-hand side, always the destination of the money. Just for your knowledge, where do you get cryptocurrency? So if you want to have it, or if you have a person of interest, where does he get the cryptocurrency? There are several ways. One, we won't go through it, but it's called mining. So basically, you can create your own cryptocurrency. So you are part of the network, you give your computing power to the network to make it secure, you're rewarded with newly created coins. Okay, Bitcoin goes through this process. For example, Ethereum just switched from this process to another one that I will try to explain if I have time. But that's basically can be created. okay, with some investment and some peculiarities. Or you can go to an exchange. That's the easiest way. Okay, there are several, hundreds of exchanges available. They are just online. Something important here, they used to be completely anonymous. So like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the first time I signed up with an exchange, because I wanted to buy Bitcoins, I could call myself Mickey Mouse. There were no questions asked, just an email address, which could be mickeymouse@gmail.com. Absolutely fine. There was no check at all. Now we have, at the European level, at the global level with the Financial Action Task Force, exchanges are forced to be licensed in the country they operate, to do KYC, know your customer, of every people getting on board, also checking the funds, the origin of the funds. So it's a bit like using a bank account. Okay, you are KYC'd completely with your passport, proof of residency, everything. So it's not as it used to be before. More anonymous way, ATMs. So there are several thousands of ATMs around the world, or some in Switzerland where I live and work. Most of them are still anonymous. Unless they're run by a company, and you have to have an account with the company, you're KYC by the company, or most of them, you simply go there casually, you put cash, and you receive cryptocurrency return. Completely anonymous. There are no limits, nothing. It's just your time, how much you can be there, how much time you can be there. Or peer-to-peer. There used to be services allowing this. So there was Local Bitcoin, for example, was a website where you go, recognize where you are, and will tell you, hey, there is this guy in the street, you can meet and exchange crypto for cash. They've been disabled for the legislation around the world, but was a service that for years allowed people to just meet in the street and exchange money. But of course, that Local Bitcoin died, but there are several ways to just find people that are able to give you Bitcoin for cash in the street. As I was telling you, and that could be really important in investigation, exchanges are now entities that have to be licensed, they have to be registered in the jurisdiction where they work, they have to do KYC of their clients, source of funds, for source of crypto, the moment you would deposit money or you deposit crypto. So when following a transaction, then you see that money, crypto, is reaching an exchange, you know that they have a lot of information about the destination. The people, the person receiving this money. Of course, I usually talk to law enforcement. They have the tools and means to subpoena the exchange and get information. But just for your knowledge, if you have other way around to get and to know somebody there, they know everything about the person receiving the transaction. Okay, so most of the investigations are simply, you go on the blockchain, you follow the money until you get to an exchange or to a known entity where you can ask questions. Or if you see the money is going to what is called an unspent amount, so means it's sitting in an address, I maybe suspect that Paul is the person receiving this money. So what I will look then is try to find where he's keeping that password that allows him to spend the money, the private key, if I want to seize it. But if you have an investigation where you're just following, and you're interested in knowing who is the source, I will try and follow him. Please. Of course.
There's one other way to get crypto, I think. Sometimes these exchanges, they have physical offices. They open up physical offices, like exchange houses, but it's exchange houses for crypto. And you go in there with cash, with fiat, and you buy crypto from them. And that's a great way if you want to investigate an exchange. That's a great way to find out what their wallets are. You buy Ether from them, you buy Bitcoin, and you find out where the money comes from to you. And that's where you go then to the public sources and track down the money. So there's also this thing, and we've seen many criminal organizations setting up these physical offices for their crypto exchanges.
Mm-hmm. Of course, because then it becomes a way to launder also your money. Those are legal incomes from buy and selling of cryptocurrency. Sorry if I'm really running fast, but so many things I want to tell you. And another thing that those exchanges would do, is then to file a suspicious transaction report. So usually they're mandated, they don't always do it and not always accurately, but they should monitor the transaction in case there is risk of money laundering or terrorist financing. They should report this to the local FIU. Okay, now I don't know if you have any wallet or if you want to try and see how it works. Also, because if you manage with the time, I have like a small game for you, but I will need you to have a wallet on your phone. So this is a suggestion of one that I am confident it's pretty free and not won't harm your computer. You can delete it afterward. It's called Mycelium. I usually use it also because the way it creates an address, it's really interesting. But anyway, if you want, and if you want to try later this game, you can try and download this one. Really important, when you initialize a wallet, in this case I'm using Mycelium to show you. You see, you have the opportunity to create a new wallet or restore from backup. Now, what is this? When you create a new wallet, you are prompted with what is called a seed. Okay, and this is really important, keep it in mind. If you're investigating a subject, somebody, what you can actually find is not his address, but you can find his seed. It's a list of either 12 or 24 words that allows you to recreate the wallet. So let's imagine I create my wallet on my phone. Now I initialize it, I'm giving this list, the seed, I write it somewhere. If I lose my phone or if I purposely or by mistake delete the application or I delete everything, no problem. I reinstall the application, I go to restore from backup, I insert those words, the wallet is recreated on my phone. But this is something that you really have to understand because it is sometimes a difficult concept. If I have now this wallet on my phone, you know, I see my balance is 2 Bitcoins. I wish. 2 Bitcoins, okay? Now you find this list of words. What you can do, you download the application on your phone, you go and restore from backup, you insert those words. Now the same wallet that I have here now on my phone is cloned, is recreated also on your phone. Okay, so I will see my wallet, will say I have 2 Bitcoins, but you have the same wallet duplicated on your phone, and will also tell you that you have 2 Bitcoins. In fact, since ownership is so different in cryptocurrency, we both have 2 Bitcoins, or none of us have in reality. What we have, we both have the possibility to spend those 2 Bitcoins. Okay, but they're not on my phone, they're not on your phone, we can both spend it. Now it becomes to who is the first one to do it. Okay, if I'm doing it, I will transfer, they will disappear from your phone. If you do it, they will disappear from my wallet, let's say, more than my phone. Okay, so always remember a seed is 12 or 24 words, because it's a standard. Okay, I will skip this for now. Okay, and then you're ready. When you set up your wallet, you can send and receive, or you can also import private keys from, the private key is this password that allows you to spend your cryptocurrency. Okay, so basically it's the only thing your wallet is saving inside is this private key, which I defined before as the password to spend the money. Okay, you can import any private key to your wallet. And then if you want to receive a payment, you just show the QR code. Just for you to know, because that would be important during an investigation if you're looking at information, Bitcoin addresses can come in different formats. So this is the legacy one, the first one that was created in 2009, but then another format was introduced, starts with 3. Okay, it's a multi-sig address. Then another one, SegWit, starts with BC1Q, and more recently, BC1P. And note that these two are case insensitive. So while these ones really mean it matters if you have a capital letter or a small letter. Anyway, those are the 4 formats you can encounter right now. Those are all Bitcoin addresses. Okay, so it starts with 1, 3, or BC1. What about other crypto? I mean, we cannot go through all the cryptocurrencies. There are hundreds. The most common ones, Ethereum addresses, 0x. They all start with 0x. And for example, Litecoin, M or L. Monero, they start with 8 or 4. But usually it's really easy. I mean, sometimes I'm involved in some investigations and I see an address that I've never seen before because they pop up constantly, new coins and new coins. You simply, you Google it and you will find, okay, it starts with T. Oh, okay, it's a Tron address, which is another cryptocurrency. Okay, so unfortunately, you have to do a bit of homework. When you see a new address you've never seen before, try on the internet, you will find somewhere what kind of cryptocurrency that is. In most cases, unless it's one of these, probably they are so-called tokens issued on the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, the Ethereum blockchain is a bit more advanced. I mean, it allows more things than the Bitcoin blockchain. It allows other coins to be created on top. Okay, so for example, Tron or other cryptocurrencies, they are created on the Ethereum blockchain. Something which is also really counterintuitive, but I need to tell you, and you need to understand it if you want to follow transactions online, is how money is spent, how transactions are spent, because it's a bit counterintuitive, but if you do like I like to do and think about cash, that would be a bit clearer. Okay, so let's imagine this is me, this is my address, okay? Sorry. My address, 1EZ, etc. Let's imagine I received money from Paul and some other friends. Okay, I received a transaction of 0.5, 0.7, and 1 Bitcoin. Okay, those are transactions that I receive. Okay, first of all, if you want to know the terminology, they become unspent transaction outputs for me. That's the way they are called. UTXO, or unspent transaction outputs. Means it's something that I received is still not spent. So in the blockchain is an unspent transaction output. Okay, now I have this in my wallet, right? So my wallet will probably just tell me, hey, you have 2.2 Bitcoins. Okay, usually your wallet doesn't go deeper and tell you exactly the way you have them. You may also have them in more than one address, as we will see. It will just tell you the balance. Okay, but anyway, I received these 3 payments, separate payments in 3 moments in time. Okay? Why I depict them as banknotes? Because the moment you receive a crypto transaction, whatever the amount is, it becomes for you like a banknote of a specific amount. I mean, we are used to like $1, $2, $10, $5, $50. In Bitcoin or in any other cryptocurrency, you have banknotes of whatever is the amount that is being sent to you. If Paul sends me 1.003497 Bitcoins, I have a banknote of that amount that I forgot. Okay, why do I say a banknote? Because like a banknote, I cannot break it in pieces. So if I have $10 and I have to buy a coffee that costs $2, I won't cut 1/5 of my $10, right? Doesn't make any sense. The same thing, if Paul sends me 1 Bitcoin, and now I want to send 0.2 to you, I cannot send the 0.2. I have to spend the 1 Bitcoin he sent me because it's a banknote for me. I cannot break it. I have to spend it and maybe get change in return, but I cannot break it in pieces. So let's imagine this situation. Now this is me, and I want to send 0.5 to Paul. Okay, my wallet has these 3 unspent transaction outputs. The wallet goes always the most economical way. So if I have to send 0.5, I have a banknote of 0.5. That's the one my wallet is going to use. Okay, transaction done, 0.5. And in the blockchain, you will see something like this. It's a transaction with, those are called inputs and outputs. Okay, so I have 1 input because I had 0.5 here, and I have 1 output because now it's 0.5 go to him. Okay, so when you see a transaction like this amount has been sent to another person, but it can become more complicated than that. So if I have to send 1.2 Bitcoins to Paul, Now, remember, the most economical way for my wallet would be, because theoretically, I can use the 1 and the 7, the 1 and the 5. The most economical way would be to use the first 2 for my wallet. Okay, so I'm sending those 2 to Paul. Now remember what I said before. They become a banknote for Paul. So he now has a banknote of 1.2 that if he wants to spend, he has to spend entirely with the same process. So if you want to spend 1, you would have to spend entirely, send 1 and get 2 as change. Now let's talk about the change. Okay, but this is what you would see in the blockchain. The transaction of 2 inputs, 1 output. Okay, meaning this entity wanted to send that money. He didn't have that money available in 1 unspent transaction outputs, he had to use 2. Okay, but there can be also 3 or 4, depending on how much is the money that you want to send. Now the other example is, I want to send him 0.9. What do I do? Okay, most economical way would be to use the 1, but it's higher than the amount I want to send. I cannot break it in pieces, I have to spend it entirely. So my wallet will create a transaction with 2 outputs. One of the output is the transaction I want to really make. It's the 0.9 going to Paul. And then we'll also make a second output, which is the change coming back to me, the 0.1. Okay, in the real world, if I go to a shop, I give $10 and I want to get change, the change will be given, of course, by the coffee shop. Let's imagine it's a coffee shop. In the crypto world, where you don't trust and you don't meet anybody, of course, I cannot send money to Paul in the other side of the world, 1 Bitcoin, and expect that maybe, hopefully, he will send me the change back. Okay? Nobody would do that. So it's done automatically by the sender. In your case, maybe I would trust you. But since you usually cannot trust, this is done automatically by the sender. When I say it's done by you, I mean by your wallet. Of course, you won't be doing anything. But your wallet will do like this, 0.9, 0.1. Okay, so you would see this, which is probably 50% of transactions on the blockchain are like this. This is a typical user transaction where somebody wants to send money to another person. The amount he has in the unspent transaction output is higher than the payment, so he will get change in return. So the final then state would be like this, 0.9, 0.1. But this is assuming the change is going back to the sending address. But remember, I can have, and everybody who has a wallet has hundreds of potential addresses. And usually, by default, in all the wallets, the change goes back to a second wallet of yours, a second address of yours in your wallet. Okay, that's done by default. You will never reuse an address you have used. This is done by your wallet, not by yourself usually. But so the change would go back to, not to the sender, the sending address, but to a separate address which is in your wallet. You probably would never really realize that. What you see on your wallet is just your balance, not even how they're spread through different addresses. Now, something which is really important is related to the way the money is spent in crypto transactions, are so-called heuristics. Because you know all these blockchain analytics companies that probably you heard about, Chainalysis, Elliptics, or TRM Labs, all these companies, what they do, in order to try and investigate transactions and to de-anonymize as much as they can ownership of cryptocurrency, they go through a two-step process. So de-anonymization is always a two-step process. The first one is to create so-called clusters. So the basic work of those companies is clustering. What is a cluster? It's a list of addresses, crypto addresses that belong to the same person. Because probably, like if you just take Bitcoin, you have millions of unique addresses used all around the world. But they don't belong each one to a person, a different person. Maybe a person owns 1,000 of them, and another person 200, another 300. So if you can make those clusters, it becomes easier to de-anonymize the addresses. There are two fundamentals that I will explain very quickly. One is called multi-input heuristic. So when you see a transaction that has more than one input, unless a special technique is used, which is called coin join, they all belong to the same person. So the sender usually is only one. So if he's using all those addresses belong to a person or an entity. Why is this important? Because maybe I have, my suspect is Paul. Sorry, it's always you. And I know that he controls a specific address. Maybe I know for sure that he owns 1KFZG4. Now, just by looking at this transaction, so I can, let's say, Google on the blockchain every address. So I Google his address on the blockchain, on the blockchain explorer, and I see, oh, this address that I know he controls has been used in this transaction. Now, simply by looking at this, I know that Paul also controls 1HK, 1NU, 144, etc. They are all controlled by him because he made a transaction with them. And now what? I can extend my research because now I will look for 144D2 still on the blockchain, and maybe I find 144D2 used with other addresses in another transaction, so I know that he also controls those. Okay, so you can really extend that research. And this is by looking at inputs. But if we look at outputs, there's also something more that we can get. You remember what I told you, that when you make a transaction, it's a banknote, so you receive change, right? So a transaction with two outputs, in most cases, is a transaction sending money and getting change in return. But how do you understand which one is the payment, which one is the change? Because it's important. The change is going back to the sender. So this is still Paul, right? The change is going back to the sender. So I just need to understand which one is the payment, which one is the change. In this case, it's quite easy just by looking at numbers. 22, round number. This is 009. This is the payment, this is the change. It's too unlikely that that would be the opposite. But actually, also, by looking at the amounts, let's imagine this transaction, two inputs, 0505, output 0604. Which one is the payment, which one is the change? Remember, the wallet will use the most economical way, so the payment must be 06, because if it was 04, just one input was sufficient, right? So I can tell you that. In fact, if I go back to the previous transaction, 22 must be the payment, because if 0.09 was the payment, any of the inputs would be sufficient. So that would make no sense. Okay, this is combined with trying to then put an identity next to the to an address, to those clusters that are made. Now, I will simply quickly go through it, but let's imagine one self-disclosure is one really important way, and it's really, really common. Now, this is a fake advertisement. Just imagine I create presentation, I create software for free, and then I want to receive tips. I will say, hey, tip me here. Consider a donation, this is my address, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a lot of people, a lot of de-anonymization is done through self-disclosure. Of course, a criminal will not probably self-disclose himself on the internet. Another one is in forums. Quite common in forums to have signature addresses, where you say, hey, if you want to tip me because you like what I wrote, tip me here. And in fact, then what you can do, you go through a blockchain explorer. So you take this address, you go through a blockchain explorer, like the one you see below, and you see the address, and you see the number of transactions this person has done, total received, final balance. You can verify everything. I'm just showing this one because this is an interesting one. Is the famous pizza guy. I don't know if you have heard. This is the first person that ever did a transaction with Bitcoin. At the time when Bitcoin had no value, in 2010, on the forum he said, whoever sends me a pizza, I will pay him 10,000 Bitcoins. Okay, if you know the value right now, that pizza costed, those two pizzas, $260 million. Okay, $130 million each. And it was not the only one, he did it, so he spent much more than that. Using exchange, There's a lot of data. Unfortunately, as I told you, that information stays with the exchange. A law enforcement could subpoena the exchange, but sometimes there are other means to get in contact with the exchange that gets at least some information from them. Leak data. So this is an example of Mt. Gox. This was the first exchange ever. I was also a client of Mt. Gox many years ago. They were leaked. I mean, they were so badly run, leaked and hacked tens of times. So like my name is in so many databases which are available on the dark web, like most of the people, most of the customers. So in some cases, this information can be available to you through the dark web because there are leaks of databases of exchanges. Yes, of course. iSpring. I thought you wanted to. Okay, well, for those of you who don't know, the dark web is a part of the internet which is not indexed by Google and all these services. Okay, so usually you access the dark web through Tor, the onion router, which is a software that allows you to mask your IP address and also the address of the server hosting the service. So, for example, one of the biggest investigations in Bitcoin, the first one that was done, was on Silk Road, which was in the dark web, was a market where you could buy drugs and counterfeited documents, money, etc. It was not, you couldn't Google it, Silk Road. You have to go through this software, Tor, to go through the dark web. If I have time, I'll maybe say a few words about that. Also seized data. So when exchanges like BTC.com, which was a criminal exchange, are seized, then the information is available to law enforcement. Also buying stuff online. So a lot of shops accept crypto, then there is a lot of data is available to them. To counter that, there are obfuscation techniques. And this is really important. It's important for criminals, of course. It's important for you if you're doing an undercover investigation and you want to use crypto because you have to make a payment or do something. You want to be as private as possible. So there are very legitimate ways and reasons to be completely anonymous. You can use obfuscation techniques. We won't go through all of them. One which is really interesting, I don't have the time to explain it too much, but it's the Lightning Network. It's a layer on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, which allows instantaneous transactions which are not recorded in the blockchain. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have the time to really explain how it works, but it works this way. Once you acquire and you install a Lightning wallet, the transactions that you make, they don't go into the blockchain, so they cannot be really traced. Some techniques to clean your money, your crypto, would be, for example, chain hopping, meaning that you acquire one cryptocurrency, Bitcoin maybe, just to enter, and then you hop through different blockchains, so with different coins. Okay, so you acquire some Bitcoin, then you buy Ethereum, Ripple, Zcash, then you buy some Monero, with which you exchange into Dash, which is another cryptocurrency, and finally you cash out. And finally you cash out. Why is this important? Because it's more difficult to trace through all the different blockchains. It's already difficult to trace through one. If you have to trace through different blockchains, it's even more difficult. Another thing which is really used, mixers. So a mixer is a service that maybe me and Paul and one of you, we want to mix our money to break the traceability on the blockchain. We sign up with a service, which is the mixer. We deposit our money. Let's imagine we deposit 1, and 2 Bitcoin. We deposit to the exchange, so we have to, to the mixer. So we have to trust the mixer because we send them money, hoping that they send us back the money. In most cases, they will send the money back to us in the same amount minus a small fee. But now for the example, I've just taken the fee out. But basically what will happen, the mixer will mix the money, it's a mixer, so it will send us back, like this. So you see, my Bitcoin went 0.6 to the blue and 0.4 to the orange. And I received 0.4 from the orange, 0.6 from the blue. Why this? Because then if you're making an investigation and you're following transactions through the blockchain, and you're coming from transactions that are there, you come back, you see here which is the origin of the money, you want to keep on tracing, it will take you here and not here. Okay, and if you're coming from here, they will take you to somewhere else. Okay, they will appear as transactions that are coming, that have another reason. All right? Of course, in this case, the orange guy didn't get a good mixing because he still got money from that he received before. Is this completely anonymous? Blockchain analytics company, in some cases, they claim they can trace and they can undo the mixing, but they also declare that not always. It's a manual process, very difficult, take time, and not perfect. So it's a good way of anonymizing transactions. Another one, I don't have too much time to explain it, coin join transaction. So I can use a special kind of wallet that will defeat the multi-input heuristic that I told you, that when you see a lot of inputs done in a transaction, they all belong and are done by one single entity, unless you're doing a coin join transaction, which is another way to de-anonymize, because you cannot really tell, you see a transaction with the sender, you cannot tell the money is coming from which one of the three, okay? Now, blockchain explorers, just to give you some other tools, blockchain explorers, they basically all show the same thing, just different user interfaces. Okay, this is one. What you see is important. You always have transaction ID is the special identifier of the transaction, the unique identifier of the transaction. The amount, the fees paid, because when you make a transaction, since the blockchain has a finite amount of space, you can add a fee to basically skip the queue and go faster than other transaction. Then you have the sender and the receiver. This is exactly the same transaction on another blockchain explorer. Transaction ID, sender, receivers, and other information which could be useful or not. Another one which I really like, because it does a little bit of the clustering that I told you about and the anonymization that I told you about, is walletexplorer.com, which now unfortunately is owned by Chainalysis, but was created by this very clever guy, Alex Yanda. Same kind of information, transaction ID, timestamp, and so on. But you see next to the receiving, so next to the outputs, you have those small tags. Now in this case, they're not telling you too much because they've been clustered but not de-anonymized. But if this is the address of an exchange or a known service, instead of the tag, you will see the name of the service, okay, which is really important. If it's an exchange, you know the money is going there, and at least you have somewhere where you could potentially go. Okay, so if this was an exchange, here you would see the name of it. Okay, once you click it, you see the wallet with all the addresses in that specific cluster, all the amounts, all the transactions, and so on. This is the transaction view mode when you look at an explorer. So you see a transaction with inputs and outputs. But you can also click on the specific addresses and go into the address view mode. And what you would see, now in this particular explorer, the history of transaction. In this case, reverse chronological order. If you're interested in this transaction, you want to know where this money is going, you click on the transaction ID, it will take you to the transaction view mode again.